I know it's been a little while I've been away. I've been trying to think about what to put together for Black History Month, and I got one right now. I'm going to try to have a few more. But I'd like to say hello to everybody and thank you for all the things that you've said about me and these reports that I put together for Black History Month. It mean a lot because this is for us. And I feel really, really appreciated that you all think so much of me and me doing this. My first one that I want to start off with is this man that I think he's really something else. He's the first African American who became the first heavyweight champion of the world. His name, by the way, was John Arthur Jack Johnson. They called him the Galveston Giant. Jack Johnson was the first African American to become the first heavyweight champion of the world. He was born March 31st, 1878 in Galveston, Texas. Johnson's parents were Henry and Tina Tiny Johnson. They were former slaves who worked as blue-collar jobs as a janitor and a dishwasher to support their 9 children to put them to school. Jack Johnson's father, Henry, was a true role model to him. His father was a civilian teamster of the Union 38th Infantry. Jack said his father was the most perfect physical specimen, and he really looked up to him, that he had ever seen. Even though his father was only 5'5" and an atrophied right leg from his service in the Civil War. If anybody's laughing right now, hey, he really thought of his father. I would have thought the same thing of my father. He just had a little physical disailment. Jack only attended 5 years of school, and like all of his siblings, he was expected to work and keep his family going. He swept classrooms to help his father. He worked for the local milkman, taking care of the milkman's horses when the milkman finished making his deliveries. Jack said even though he grew up in the segregated South, it was not an issue of things being, I guess, people looking down on him or trying to put him down as a black man. He said everybody in that little secluded city of Galveston in the 12th Ward was poor and they were struggling, trying to make a way. He remembers growing up with a gang of white boys, and he never felt victimized or excluded. As he grew up, he said they were his friends and his pals. He ate at their homes, played with them, and slept at their homes, and even sat at their dinner tables and ate dinner with them. He said, no one taught me white men were superior to me. Jack carried this mentality for the rest of his life. He thought of himself as a man first who just happened to be black. This mental toughness he would use later on to become the heavyweight champion of the world, for no fighter, regardless of his race, intimidated him. Johnson's first professional bout was on November 1st, 1898 in Galveston, Texas. He fought Charles Brooks and knocked him out in the second round of a 15-round match. And that was a light bout. It was only 15 rounds. During those early days of boxing, there could be 40 or more rounds. You had to be in darn good shape. Johnson developed a unique fighting style, which was not customary for boxing at that time. Johnson sometimes would strike first, but he fought defensively, waiting for his opponent to tire himself out, like a rope-a-dope. Then as the rounds progressed, he would get aggressive and then throw his punches. And he threw them bad, and he threw them fast. Dodging punches, he would make his way. He made his boxing look effortlessly, like he had more to give. He was fast with his hands, and he knew how to move. The press criticized his style of boxing, calling it cowardly. But white boxer Jim Corbett, who was a heavyweight champion who retired many years before, the press thought of him as a great fighter. They had the same type of technique in fighting. Like I said, he used Jim Corbett's style of defensive in fighting. But they called his style, Jack Johnson, cowardly. But they called Jim Corbett. He is the cleverest man at boxing. He knows how to stay away from fighters, not get hit, and do the hitting when he felt like it. But Jack Johnson said he was scared. He just knew how to fight. Johnson fought many fights till he finally got his chance to fight the champion of the world, Tommy Byrnes, in Sydney, Australia in 1908. This fight with Tommy Byrnes didn't happen overnight. At that time, the powers that be in boxing circles did not want to take a chance on a black man defeating a champion of the world. It took Johnson 2 years, stalking Byrnes all over the world, calling him out to the press to get a fight. Only after the promoters guaranteed Byrnes $30,000 would Byrnes fight him. Johnson finally had his chance to beat him in the 14th round and beat him so bad the police stopped the fight. But Johnson was awarded the title on a referee's decision. After this fight, many riots were caused all across America. America did not want to see this happen, and many people suffered for this fight. A black man becoming a champion of the world. After this, among whites, they called on a great white hope to take the title away from Johnson. Many tried to take the title away. Even undefeated J Jeffries, who had retired undefeated, as I said, heavyweight champion of the world. They asked him to come out of retirement. And this man was out of shape. I mean, he hadn't fought many, many years, almost 5 or more years. He was out. Gained over 100 pounds. He was happy being an alfalfa farmer. But they asked him to come out of retirement, get in shape, do anything you can to take this title from this black man. He did. He came out of retirement and he fought him. They paid Jeffries about $120,000 to fight. An unheard amount of money at that time. That's about $3.2 million in today's money. This fight was dubbed the Fight of the Century. It took place on the 4th of July, 1910. You know who everyone was hoping to win that particular fight. But Johnson hurt Jeffries so bad that his corner threw in the towel in the 15th round to end the fight. They didn't want to see Jeffries get knocked down and out, because he had never been knocked down when he was fighting. And they didn't want to see this black man knock this man out. The fight earned Johnson $65,000. That's about $1.7 million in today's money. Those were the big money fights even before Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. After this fight, there was race riots across America. Many whites felt humiliated by the defeat of Jeffries. African Americans, well, we had celebrations. We had prayer meetings. There were parades. We were happy that a black man had did something that nobody else had ever did. And this was a great achievement. This was a great victory in racial advancement. Many of those felt, and it was. Over the years after this fight, Johnson fought many a great white hope. None could beat him. That with the fact he was his own man, and his life was very hard at times because of this, because he was a man who, he spoke up, he spoke his mind, he lived as he pleased, and he did as he pleased. And this was a time when black people really didn't carry themselves this way. But he was just, like I said, he was a man who believed he was a man first, who just happened to be black and in America. And he was not going to let no skin color or anything else stop him. He wanted to be himself. He dressed well and had many white girlfriends and even married white women at a time when black men could get lynched for just looking at a black woman.
White woman.
At a white woman. He spoke his mind and carried himself like a man first, regardless of his skin color. Finally, America had found its white hope. On April 5th, 1915, Johnson fought Jess Willard in Havana, Cuba. Now, this fight was for 45 rounds in the hot Cuban sun. By now, Johnson was much older, but he fought well against the much younger and taller Jess Willard, who was between 6'6" and 6'8". But Jess Willard won in a 26th round. Johnson knocked down and counted out. Johnson kept on fighting. His last fight professionally was in 1938 at the age of 60. He sometimes fought in what was called cellar boxing, bouts unadvertised in cellars and other places for private audiences. Johnson was killed in a car crash on June 10, 1946, after leaving a diner angry because they refused to serve him. This was in North Carolina at the time. He was 68 years old. So much more can really be said for Jack Johnson, for he was one of those great black people who became the first of something. It's not easy becoming the first of anything, especially when you're a person of color. Jack Johnson once said at the time when he was going through so much turmoil after winning a heavyweight champion of the world, and everybody seemed to be against him. He said, "I'm Jack Johnson, heavyweight champion of the world. I'm black. They never let me forget it. I'm black, all right. I never let them forget it either." That was Jack Johnson. Look him up. Check him out. There's many more things, like I said, I could say, but time permits that I can't go through so much. There's only just so much I can put down. But he was a man of beyond his times. Muhammad Ali even called himself. He said his life was mirrored after Jack Johnson. Once back in, I think it was the early 60s, the late 60s, they had a play called The Great White Hope. He went to see that play. And when he walked in, he hollered, "Ghost in the house! Ghost in the house! Ghost in the house!" He was saying, "See that on screen? That's me. Take away all the white women and put in religion and all the things that I've gone through with what America's put me through. That would be my life." Muhammad Ali looked up to him. And he said, "Y'all think I'm crazy, the things I've done and what I'm doing. Check out Jack Johnson." Anyway, I thank you all for hearing this story. I appreciate it. I'll try to do something else a little later on.
You're going to do something else.
Bye now. Check you later. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Okay, y'all. Y'all heard Walter do his story for Black History Month. Thanks for watching. Give him a thumbs up and leave a nice comment. Okay. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.